It's now time for The Sit Down with Don Tony.
The Sit Down, where Don Tony talks one-on-one with his followers.
What are you looking at?
About the world of pro wrestling, pop culture, and so much more.
The Sit Down with Don Tony.
And now, your host, Don Tony.
Do I look like an Italian guinea pig? Do I look like a guinea pig, eh? I'll tell you why in a minute. Good evening, everybody. Good day. It is August 13th, 2023. Welcome to the latest edition of The Sit Down with Don Tony. Want to thank you very much for tuning in. Big shout out to the family. Yeah, I know the newer viewers and listeners out there, they hear family, sit down, the Don Tony. They think that we are biting off of Tony D'Angelo in NXT. I don't even think he was alive when Don Tony pretty much was born over here. How's everybody doing? I hope everybody's having a wonderful weekend. This weekend flew by. I can't believe that tomorrow it's back to the office for me and for a lot of you out there. But for tonight, for the next hour to hour and a half, what we do on Sundays, I call it the lazy day. I show up with nothing. I mean, yes, somebody sent something, made me an offer I couldn't refuse before it went live, so I got prepared for it. But usually on Sunday, you ask all the questions, you choose the topics, and we talk about it. That's what the sit down is all about. So sometimes it goes very retro. Sometimes it's all about wrestling. Sometimes wrestling is not always the focus, but that is the deal. Now, couple of quick instructions. You have to be live in the chat room if you want to participate in this. If you want a question answered in capital letters, write the word question. If you have a comment you want me to share with the world, write in capital letters the word comment before it so I get spotted quicker. If I answer yours, wait a little bit before asking something else. And super chats, which I now call gabagool money. A little bit of gabagool. So super chats are not required. Very much appreciated. That's what keeps the bills going, really. And we'll always get VIP treatment. And sometimes we get people that will send it before the show starts because either they want to be first in line for me to talk about something, or in the case of tonight, give me a chance to prepare. You know, it's not always easy when you're live to start trying to do, downloads and adjustments. And by the way, two things about Saturday's edition of the Don Tony Show, August 12th. First of all, my apologies to everybody out there who was saying there was audio problems. On my end, I was looking at the meter levels and they were fine. But when I listened to it back, the first 20 minutes, oh my God, what a butcher job. It was really, really low. I was able to fix the audio on dontony.com, and I was able to fix the audio on Patreon. No, that's not a grab to try to get somebody to tune in elsewhere. Just YouTube doesn't give me the capability of editing part of the audio and boosting it up. And it's either I take the whole video down and re-upload it fixed, or we leave it. So that's why on YouTube it's still where it is. Just low for the first 20 minutes. Second thing is, yesterday I gave you all warning about the clickbait that is now flooding Twitter, especially in the wrestling world. Yesterday I said that now these news sites, if they have 500,000 views in a 3-month period, they start getting paid from Twitter. It's actually 5 million, not 500,000. And you see what is happening. It's disgusting. And it's not just, the clickbait journalists. It's a lot of your favorite podcasters and writers that are reacting to posts that they know aren't true. But if they get their comment in there and 1 million people click on the comment or click on the post and your comment happens to show up early on, you get credited with a view as well. So you got people that are just talking about fucking anything just to get a view, just to get ad money. I will never, ever criticize anybody who's trying to make some money doing this. It's not easy, and it's a lot of work, more than people realize. But to deceive and to post shit just for that click, I just think that is, very disrespectful. How could you look at or talk to your listeners with a straight face and, do shit like that? Me, I can't do that. So, fine. All right. Rizzo, before we get into the early topic, I see Rizzo just sent something in pertinent to what we're talking about right now. Rizzo with a 5-spot says, my God, DT, I'm already seeing these clickbait Twitter accounts saying Jey Uso's contract expires 2 days before All In. Listen, I don't mind fans that are falling for the story, that think maybe he could show up in All In. Maybe WWE will give him a break for a little while and work some other places. Listen, not every wrestling fan is smart to the business, especially young wrestling fans. I think one of the best examples in recent memory was Roxanne Perez in NXT. When they did that collapse storyline after a match with Michael Satomura, a lot of people did not think or realize, or maybe weren't even alive in 1995, that some of these storylines were a little bit of a tribute, so to speak, to Shawn Michaels and some of the storylines he had back in the day. And you have people online, oh my God, Roxanne, we're praying for you. Please, we hope you're okay. We just, and credit to her, she resisted and pretty much kept quiet about it. And, I don't think wrestling fans at the end of the day were bitter at her, for realizing that a lot of it pretty much was just an act. It was storyline, a lot of it. Because they realize what they're watching on TV is a storyline. Look at yesterday, El Hijo del Vikingo, after the AAA event finished. There's video online of him collapsed in the back, and they rushed him to the hospital. I haven't even bothered. I know that sounds cold, but I haven't even bothered yet to see if it's storyline or it's not. But everybody out there, trying to get those views are downloading, capping the video, and reposting it just so people could view it. So, again, I don't mind anybody trying to make money out there. But, when you deceit and that you're lying through your teeth to do it, you don't get my respect for that. So, all right. I got to talk about this right at the beginning, because I saw this came in from Mikey about 20, 30 minutes before we went live. I got the alert. Thank you, Mikey, for the Gabagool money. He sent me enough to get a pound of Gabagool. Mikey Ravello sent the 20 spot. DT, please play here CM Punk's shoot on Hangman Page from last night's AEW Collision. My question to you, your thoughts on what Punk said, and Meltzer saying CM Punk went into business for himself and it was not part of a storyline. Okay. For those out there that don't know what I am talking about, after Collision went off the air, CM Punk and FTR were still in the ring. And CM Punk grabbed the mic, was having a little bit of fun with the fans. He said a couple of things at Hangman Page. I'm going to play it for you so you could hear it, listen to it, watch it. And then I will tell you my thoughts, because Dave Meltzer immediately went online to tell everyone that this is not part of a storyline. This is not part of a storyline. Let's share the footage first. I will tell you my reaction to it. All right, let's clear the screen. Let's get it queued up. Let me get the video prepared, because, like I said, I got it right here. Here is AEW Collision last night after the camera stopped rolling. This is fan footage, and this is what CM Punk had to say.
Today, I went to a local supermarket, and I figured out why they call him Hangman. is because the pegs in the toy aisle are full of Hangman action figures.
Oh, shit. Sorry. My apologies. All right, we got to redo it. Here we go. I think it's worth the second play.
Earlier today, I went to a local supermarket and I figured out why they call him Hangman. It's because the pegs in the toy aisle are full of Hangman action figures because nobody wants to buy them.
Oh! You son of a bitch!
He's a peg warmer. Unlike me, who moves merchandise and pops ratings and sells toys. You got everybody in AEW saying, I'm the heart, I'm the soul, I'm the spirit. Well, that's objective. What is a fact is the people who say that certainly aren't the chin of AEW because the lights go out faster than what? GTS, go to sleep. I don't know what I'm trying to do. I got locked too. I told the House of Black no chops, and the chop makes them very mad.
Okay. First of all, about the House of Black comment, you got people online. I'm not talking about children now. You got people online that actually do media, that are actually calling CM Punk a prissy little bitch for telling the House of Black not to chop him. Do you honestly think before the match happened, they were in the back, he said to him, please, no chops? No, his chest was beat red. People were joking about it at ringside. So he was just playing off on it like, I told him not to chop me, and he chopped me. You ever watch a fucking match and a heel, it says, well, even with Gunther, not as much right now because Gunther's a heel, but someone will, when Gunther becomes a babyface, every time he puts someone in the corner, people will be like, no, they don't want to get hit. They don't want to get hit. People taking this shit way too seriously. Now, my thoughts on CM Punk and what he said about Hangman Page and Dave Meltzer coming out immediately saying it was storyline. It was not storyline. All right. I have a lot of respect for Dave Meltzer. I still follow all his stuff. I know he's biased. I've known it for decades. I look past it. Why people feel like they are forced to pay attention to what he says and writes, I don't get. But I will say this. This is a thumbnail that I made quite a while ago. Journalistic kayfabe. Why report the actual story when you could be part of the story? You ever look at the background of that thumbnail? There's nothing but newsletters in the background. All right. This is what they do. All right. Dave Meltzer's, if not the biggest non-wrestling supporter, non-wrestler, who's a supporter of AEW. He might be the biggest, outside of Tony Khan, he might be the biggest non-supporter. Or, let me say it like this, non-employee of AEW. Biggest supporter of AEW is not an employee. All right. FTR is taking on the Young Bucks Wembley weekend. There's rumors of Kenny Omega versus CM Punk in the future. You don't think that FTR is, does anybody actually think that FTR is not going to practice and train and work out and plan their match with the Young Bucks before? You think that they're still locked up in separate locker rooms? CM Punk is still aligned with FTR by the hip. And you don't think that these little jokes on both sides are not storyline? I said about a month ago that I truly believe that these adults, for the betterment of AEW, for the betterment of future TV deals, for the betterment of big house shows in the future, for the betterment of ratings, for the betterment of their own pockets, for the betterment of other wrestlers, to set the stage for tomorrow, to financially secure their families. Sooner or later, the babies are going to step up to the table and work things out. You don't have to like each other, but you can make money with each other. And I said that a month ago, and I believe that that has happened. There is a lot on the line with AEW over the next 12 months. And you think in your right mind that Warner Media is not going to be concerned that these EVPs, these executives, are on non-speaking terms with their biggest moneymaker in CM Punk? You think Warner Media wants to deal with a company where people are so fucking unprofessional that the next blow up, you could end up with some major names out and lawsuits and no. So honestly, with all due respect, after everything that happened, especially going into Wembley weekend, CM Punk is not, it's not the time of the month. He's not on the rag. CM Punk is not going to suddenly, with knowing that there's thousands of cell phones in attendance, that he's going to start cracking really hard jokes at Hangman Page. Why? Because there's a sign in the crowd that says Hangman was right. You think this guy is that much of a fragile, bitter bitch? I say no. I say no. It is storyline. It is storyline. And maybe Dave Meltzer, with all due respect to Dave, maybe he ran and posted that because nobody told him. Nobody told him. Honestly, CM Punk is not a big fan of Dave Meltzer at all. So if Dave, and listen, I don't even know what relationship that Hangman Page has with Dave Meltzer, but I will say this. If they are going to have some storylines, FTR calling out the Young Bucks calling out FTR, Kenny Omega down the line calling out CM Punk making jabs at Kenny Omega, Hangman Page in the back busy with his horse and some chocolate milk because he doesn't really cut great promos because he's not smooth on the mic. That's not a shot at him, really, when you think about it. What is he going to do? He's going to go out there in front of a live crowd after the crowd goes off the air. And he's not that type. He's a great fucking wrestler, but he's not extremely smooth on the mic when he shoots. And honestly, not too many people would want to go toe-to-toe with CM Punk on the mic. So honestly, Dave is saying that because nobody told him. And I hope these fucking wrestlers, some of them, maybe not the Young Bucks, but I hope some of these wrestlers realize, you know what? You know, working, even the journalists, can be fun. And no journalist should be offended that the wrestlers, why do the wrestlers need to tell the journalists every fucking little thing that they do? So listen, CM Punk is not going to randomly do that and ruffle feathers behind the scenes so close to Wembley weekend. No. And guess what? Not bragging, but you look back the last year and a half, everything that we discussed here. Remember all the reporting. Meltzer, up until the day before that they announced CM Punk was returning. It is possible. That was Alvarez, actually. It is possible that blah, 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 blah. It is possible, blah, 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 blah. They got so much wrong that it's not even funny to talk about. So, with all due respect, just sit back. If you're enjoying it, sit back and enjoy it. That's what I have to say. All right, Miki Saito. I have no idea what that currency is, but it's 150 spot, and I thank you very much, brother. I get super sad money, Italian combo. Now, hello, DT. What do you think we will have Wargames this year? Do you think WWE would dare do a Bloodline Wargames 2 years in a row? I say no. Because the Usos are not going to realign with Roman Reigns. You know, even though Paul Heyman said we're in the bottom of the third with this storyline, and trust me, more and more people, even though it's good storyline, people are getting a little bit tired. Like, stop adding all these fucking extra chapters. It's starting to feel like this shark is in the water, and they're getting ready to jump it. You know, this is like before the episode of Happy Days. Fonzie right now is just putting on his jacket, and he's getting ready to hold the rope. He hasn't jumped the shark yet, but they are on their way of jumping the shark. You could not have a bloodline feud. Judgment Day, I don't think we're going to have 5-6 members, especially male. So Survivor Series this year, I think we may get Raw versus SmackDown. That is a possibility. But we're not going to get Judgment Day versus a group of people. I don't think Bobby Lashley's faction's going to have enough people in it. You know, Wargames, 5 people. So who that 5 is, I don't know yet. Because there's so much that needs to develop between now and then. I have a feeling we may get the traditional Raw versus SmackDown. And you know what? There is nothing wrong with that. There is absolutely nothing wrong with that. Last year, it worked out because Sami Zayn aced it, being part of the bloodline, and you had enough members to be on one team. This year, I say no. So I think we'll get more of a traditional Raw versus SmackDown. In fact, I got news for you. I would not be surprised if the focus of Survivor Series this year is an individual match or two, and not necessarily the Survivor Series match. Yes, there will be a Survivor Series match on there, but will it be War Games this year? I don't know if you bring back War Games this year. You know, it was part of Survivor Series last year, but do you bring back War Games just to bring it back? I don't think War Games should be an annual tradition. If there is a feud going on and there's enough participants, then you go War Games. So, yes, I think this year it'll be Raw versus SmackDown in the Survivor Series match. And no, I'm not sold on War Games. I'm not sold on that. You know, unless we get a hybrid of a faction with another person or two added to it. So that's my honest take on it. Thank you. Thank you for that, Mickey. One Fall Podcast. What's up, One Fall? Thank you for the 50 spot. I get a nice glass of wine. No, this obviously goes to expenses. Good evening, DT. Any thoughts about the Lucha Libre legend, QT Marshall? Oh, wait. Got to put soap in my mouth every time I say that. Oh, okay. Let me read his post first, and then I got to tell you why I said at the beginning of the show, what am I, a guinea pig? I got to share something with you. You got to get a kick out of it. Anyway, One Fall says, good evening, AT. Any thoughts about the Lucha Libre legend, QT Marshall, becoming the new AAA Latin American champion on TripleMania? I watched his very American outfit, his gear. I got to be honest with you. I don't like QT Marshall still, but I watched the last 5-6 minutes of that match. I thought he actually did a pretty good job. I mean, QT Marshall is he's one of your best examples. And I've been going to indie wrestling shows since I was a kid. I had the privilege of being involved in indie wrestling shows as well for many years. But I will say this, especially when I was younger, Iron Mike Sharp might be a good example of it. You would get somebody on the card that you really didn't know. This is before he got a manager on WWF and started becoming a mainstay, even when he had a match with Backlund at the Garden. But Iron Mike Sharp, you would go to an indie show, and then there would be a guy there that's like a heel, that's in shape, very animated, but, just something about him, you forget about him after you leave. You just don't even think about him. Yeah, but when they work, they do enough that they earn their pay. That's my thoughts on QT Marshall. There's a reason why QT Marshall never became a big star in Impact, never became a big star in WWE. And don't give me, well, maybe he didn't want to work that schedule. He's a good indie guy who fills a card and has worked. And listen, he trains people as well. And you train people, you have to have some talent. This is not like hiring a first base coach or a hitting coach, and they were lifetime 210 in the major leagues. Sometimes you know the tools, but because of your physical abilities or lack thereof, you can't execute it yourself. Up here, you may have it, but physically, you may not be able to execute it. That doesn't mean that you can't share the secret to somebody else. So honestly, I congratulate him. He earned his pay. With all due respect, I'm a little surprised that AAA put the belt on him. But then again, there's a relationship with AEW, so it doesn't surprise me. But honestly, I could care less. I'm just being honest. I could care less. Good for him, though, because he's in shape. He does train people, and he works hard. Still, I wouldn't pay to see him. I wouldn't pay to see him. All right. Before we go to the chat room and start having some fun there, somebody bribed me with $100 super chat. Hasn't given it yet because I haven't given my answer yet. Any of you out there, are you aware of a big shortage with Alka-Seltzer nighttime cold medicine? Are you aware of it, that there is a huge shortage of Alka-Seltzer nighttime? It's Alka-Seltzer, but there's a nighttime formula. It helps you sleep. I talked about it maybe a month ago that my wife uses it every single night. Now you go on eBay and there's $60 a box because you can't find it anywhere. Normally it's about $10 a box, $8 a box. People selling it for $60 a box because there's a mass shortage. So a month ago, I joked on the show that, soon we're not going to have any Alka-Seltzer nighttime anymore. So somebody sent me a box of Alka-Seltzer nighttime and put a note in there and said, I will give you $100 super chat if you drink it live on the show. And I was like, yeah, but then I looked, and now maybe some of you out there have high def that you could zoom in on this. I'll take a picture of it and then I will post it. Maybe we'll do it next week. But I don't know if you could see this. Maybe if you zoom in on that. I can't, if I go close, it'll be blurry. Somebody sent me a box of Alka-Seltzer nighttime cold medicine from 1997. It is sealed in the box. It's never been opened. There's 20 tablets in here. Somebody is bribing me $100 to drink 26-year-old Alka-Seltzer nighttime cold medicine. Will it even fizz? Will it even fizz? Should we do it? Should I do it next week live on the show? It is sealed. It is sealed. And we'll open the box live. I'll take a sip. We ate. You remember? I personally, in hindsight, guys, I think we did it way too early. I think because people weren't aware of the video shows yet and the way I titled things, that we should have waited a year or two before we did it. But we ate, 35-year-old WWF popcorn. I still got laying around the house WCW gum or candy. This is bubble gum. It's still, I have every box of this. I still got, look, Goldberg from 1998, the gum. It's still sealed closed, Goldberg. We were eating like old shit. I never got sick from it, though. James, good point. James says we don't care about Alka-Seltzer. So maybe we won't do it. I don't know. I'll leave it up to everybody. You vote. Do we open up this 1997 box and drink it next week? I wonder if it's worth anything. Majority of everybody in chat room says don't. I would like to open it just to see if it fizzes. You know what I have still on my desk? We got to start giving these away. You know what this is? This is WCW Nitro Cologne. They gave out samples back in, I think, 1999. And it's funny because in the back, you got Goldberg wearing like suit pants and a white shirt. This is Nitro Cologne. I actually opened this. It smells pretty damn good. I got about 15 of these. So maybe we got to start giving those away. No, WCW Nitro Cologne actually smells pretty good. I got to get the WWF Attitude. Does anybody remember it was like 1997? Remember the commercial? Attitude. Attitude. They made Attitude Cologne, WWF. I got to get a bottle of that. I have to get a bottle of that. All right. So let's head over to the chat. Tristan Sloan, my thoughts on the Scott Steiner math promo. I love it. And, one of the most viewed tweets that I've ever posted, just to show you, when Scott Steiner was in very grave condition health-wise a couple of years ago, I went on Twitter in dedication of that math promo, and I said, there's a 99% chance that he will 100% make a 75% full recovery. I said something like that, but I used Steiner math. But it was a positive post, and it got like 5 million views. Just think, if I would have posted that now, I'd be able to get paid from Twitter. No, but yeah, the Steiner math, that I don't know if he rehearsed it. I don't know if he ever revealed if he rehearsed that or not. I don't think you can rehearse something like that. I think you just start rambling numbers out there. It's almost like a yogiism. If anybody remembers Yogi Berra, yogiisms, it's kind of like a yogiism. I got a 100% chance. I got a 50-50 shot of getting this 100% right. They say something stupid and it sounds like it makes sense. So, all right. Again, if you have a question or comment, here, Rocky Red has a comment, wants me to share with everyone. Screw the Baltimore Orioles for suspending one of their analysts, Kevin Brown, for spitting facts about the team. That is the ultimate snowflake shit that I've ever seen. For those that don't know, even if you don't follow baseball, check this out. The Orioles are doing better in baseball, but they at one point were just really, really sucking bad. And Kevin Brown, which I wonder if that's the former Dodger pitcher. I think he pitched on the Yankees for a short period of time, too. I don't know if it's the pitcher, former pitcher, but Kevin Brown, who was an analyst, talked about how the Orioles, not too long ago, and he talked about a little bit of their futility, and they suspended him because of it. I never, ever heard about something like that in my life. In Major League Baseball, because he brought up, I could see if you bring up like the negative past of an executive who was fired, or maybe a player who committed a crime, or just something really outlandish, simply just saying like last month they lost 13 straight, like saying something like that and get suspended over it. That's awful. That is awful. Mighty, after all these years, what do I think about the aces and eights angle? I hated it. It wasn't all bad, but they jumped the shark early. A lot of people don't even know about that legendary online feud I had with Bully Ray at the time. And look, in hindsight, I'm a little embarrassed some of the things I said. But, Bully Ray, if you remember the storyline, he was getting his ass kicked from aces and eights. He was going to marry Brooke Hogan. And they were doing all this shit. And then they decided, let's make him the leader of aces and eights. Or I used to call aces at 0.8s because all they would get is 0.8 ratings. And we even made a shirt, aces at 0.8s, and they threatened to sue me, TNA. But what happened was they made him the leader of aces and 0.8s. And they did like 6 vignettes. I might be exaggerating by 1 or 2, but they did like multiple vignettes on an episode of Impact to explain the logic of him. And it pretty much was saying like, oh no, he was earning his stripes. Like him getting the shit knocked out of him and all. No, that was him earning his stripes. It was just awful. And then, it's almost like, it's almost like an indie fed where the owner's got all these, I don't want to say scrubs, but he's watching like NWO with like, he's got an indie fed in 1998 and he's watching NWO and he's stoned beyond belief. It's like, dude, Nux, you could be 6. Instead of 6, you're Nux. And you could be this. And dude, whoa, shit, Bully Ray, he could be the fucking leader. But boss, we've been like beating the shit out of him the last 5 weeks. Oh, fuck that. We'll just say that he was just earning his colors. It's like somebody that was majorly high was coming up with this stuff. And honestly, sometimes when you come up with ideas when you're pissed drunk, sometimes it's the best ideas. You ever see somebody in a bar and they're just sitting at the bar And they're just rambling and rambling. You're like, just shut the fuck up. But then you start listening like, wow, this guy actually sounds like a genius. Some people, when they drink, they just talk and they ramble. And you're like, wow, this guy's pretty fucking smart. I never liked it. Never liked it. They tried, man. And they had, you know what? They had some good talent in the faction. But you got to remember, what was it, Sons of Anarchy or whatever that TV show was that was pretty, popular at the time. It was fairly new. Might not be that show, but I remember there was a TV show and that was kind of this, play off of it. So I understand why they did it. But, just, nah. The Main Event Mafia was 1,000 times better. 1,000 times better than that. So, my thoughts on AEW selling as many tickets at All In. Honestly, I'm not trying to be politically correct when I say this, but if you're a WWE fan, you don't like AEW, be happy that there's that much interest that fans went out and bought tickets, and then yes, scalpers bought ticket as well. But, the fact that any wrestling company could generate that much, that's bragging rights as a wrestling fan. That pro wrestling is so hot right now that a company was able to get 80,000 plus to show up at their show. It's not like AEW put the tickets on sale for 50 cents. Buy a hot dog, get a free ticket. They made some serious money off of this. And the fact that there's that many wrestling fans in the UK that want to go see this, that's a pretty cool thing to see. Now, for some people, it goes way over their head. For some people, this is the ultimate orgasm. I mean, seriously, they are so orgasmic right now and listen, the wrestlers and the people involved, absolutely, man, celebrate till there's no tomorrow. But for some wrestling fans out there, it's a little bit over the top. But you know what, man? People are happy. That's the bottom line. Now, the people who are rubbing this shit in other people's faces, those are the people that you got to just be like, stay away from them. Just let them, have their fun. And, at the end of the day, they're going to wake up the next day and realize that they did not get a like from Tony Khan. They're not working there. They didn't get an autographed photo in the mail from a wrestler. They didn't get a souvenir. They just pretty much the same situation they were in a week before, and that's it. But people who are happy for it, that's cool, man. That's cool. But to turn around and focus the entire AEW business on one night, you got to be really careful about that. So, Guardian of Chaos holding the ship with Austin. Shout out to both of you. Chaos says, out of these three former WWF champions, Ivan Koloff, Pedro Morales, Stan Stasiak, all who had short reigns, which had a bigger impact at their time? Oh, that's easy. Pedro Morales. And it's not even close. Ivan Koloff was a shock. Ivan Koloff, the fans were so angry at him winning the championship that, obviously WWF in the early 70s, they wanted that shock value, but I think they realized very quickly, this was probably not the best idea, and you want to keep your fans happy, especially at that time. You want to keep your fans happy. So Koloff was controversial. Stan Stasiak, I've always had a warm place for Stan Stasiak, but Stan Stasiak, I don't think, put it this way, I wasn't a wrestler. I was not around. I mean, I was an embryo at the time most of this went down between the three guys. But, I can't picture just teenagers going to school that Monday or Tuesday, or people in the cigar store, Stasiak won the belt. You got to go watch him defend it. I can't picture he was a big topic of conversation, especially here in New York, where the majority of WWF shows came from. Pedro Morales, though, the Latino audience, Puerto Rican, oh my goodness. Pedro Morales, he got tremendous buzz. And I wasn't around to live through any of that. But even in hindsight, people over the years, because remember, I started watching wrestling in 79. And I was going to Ridgewood Grove in the early 80s. And later on, I would go to the Garden. That's how I met Georgie, God rest her soul, and some others. And you would talk to people there that were around in the 60s and the 70s. And you get people at ringside with Georgianne that would talk about the early days of, Bruno's reign in the 60s, and then Pedro. And Pedro was a big deal. Plus, he was a babyface. But Pedro representing Latinos, big deal. Big deal. Birdie says he was born in 1999. My thoughts? Fuck you. Because I was doing my wrestling hotline in 1999. That's kind of depressing when you think about it. I don't remember, like on my wrestling hotline in 1990. Big shout out to Mrs. Birdie, who just gave birth to her son, Birdie. But hey, that's cool, man. Seriously. Anybody out there, whether you're born in 1999, 2009, whatever it is, but just understand that, me getting old, where I could just drop dead right now, especially if I drink some 26-year-old Alka-Seltzer, you don't have to rub it in my face that I'm old. At least I wear the hat more for, character purposes. I still got my hair. But I will say this to each and every one of you out there, and I mean this sincerely, seriously, for a minute. If you're still like under 40, go and enjoy yourself as much as you possibly can. If there's things you want to try, even if you want to train to be a wrestler or play baseball or softball or go out and do some hobbies, go out and do it, man. I mean this. Because, when I had my car accident in 96, my life was wrestling, going out with my friends too, but my life was wrestling and playing softball. And both of those were taken away from me. And, once in a while, I talk to my friends I grew up with, and they're still, and I'm sure I could probably play now, not very good, but the thing is that, before you know it, time goes like this. You think about even with wrestling, we just celebrated like the 10-year anniversary of the Wyatt family or the 10-year anniversary of the Shield. And you realize 10 years just fucking flies like this. So do not be one of those where you say, oh, I'll do it next week. I'll do it next year. Next year will never come, man. So enjoy yourself, especially now. See, even though we didn't have the technology up until the 90s, so to speak, and believe me, I tell you, trying to podcast in the late 90s, early 2000s with 56K modem, you have no idea how awful that was. Now you just click a couple of buttons and you got 4K streaming. But, back then, you're doing these things. And, next thing you know, 10 years goes by, 20 years goes by. Just have fun, man. Seriously. Oh, my God. Back then, you guys have no idea. You have no idea what it was like to be on a 33.6 modem. Or if you were lucky, you had DSL. Oh, man, it was so freaking slow, especially like Pornhub. I don't know what it was at the time, but you wanted to look at you had to wait 3 minutes just to see a naked screenshot. Fuck the video, because the video would be pixelated. You'd have to have it the size of a quarter for it to look like in decent condition. You would load a picture, and for some reason, why is that, everybody? Anybody who is old like me or was around in the 90s and the early 2000s with internet, explain to me, every time you wanted to click on a naked picture, even if it was Kimberly Page, I don't know why I randomly thought of her. You just want to see the naked picture and you click on the picture and for some reason the head starts coming. And you're like, yeah. You see the eyes, the nose, the mouth, and then it gets to the neck. And then for some reason the legs start coming up. And now you got just the head and now you just got the legs. And you're like, All right, like fill in the blanks. And then you see like the arms start to develop. They always, for some reason, the computer would always save the good parts for last. You'd sit there for 3 minutes waiting for one picture to load. And then sometimes you would have a timeout and you're waiting and you're getting like, yeah. And then all of a sudden you get this big red X. You have to reload it. Benjamin is laughing his ass off, but Benjamin has no idea. There's a lot of people out there right now that are very, very frustrated. Like, yeah, I remember that. When Tammy was the most downloaded woman on the internet in 1995, and she didn't do nudes at that time. You wanted to click on her at the beach with all the sand on her and everything, and you click on it, and you see her face, and you see, like, the sun, and then all of a sudden, for some reason, like, the computer knew what you wanted. I should have told the computer I want to see her eyes. Maybe they would have showed her tits first. But for some reason, whenever you wanted to download a nudie picture, like everything but the body parts, the good parts would be last to load. By that time, that's it. The moment's gone. Oh, we won't even talk about scrambled porn. We will not even talk about scrambled porn. That was just brutal. All right. I think we should get back to wrestling a little bit. All right, let's answer some more questions. Benjamin is asking, did Zachary Wentz, Nash Carter, return to Impact because he found a chilly reception in WWE? No, it's just right now with the controversy of everything that went on with the, Nash Carter, with the doing the salute. Right now, WWE's bringing him back. I don't understand why they're waiting so long. I mean, I do understand it. They want Wes Lee to be a big single star. But I think sooner or later, if WWE feels that he should be a tag team wrestler, you'll see Nash Carter back. There is redemption. And, he truthfully, in my opinion, showed that he really did not understand the level of offense of, how he offended people with what he did. And when he started educating himself and learning, he realized that he fucked up tremendously. Plus, there are so many people in wrestling, from MJF to others, who have publicly gone to bat for the guy and said, this is not a bad guy. That is a guy that you want in your company. So I think sooner or later he is back. Tuxedo Earth has a copy of Goodfellas he found in a free bin. Never saw it in his life. Should you watch it? It's my favorite movie of all time. If it's that good for me, you may not like mob movies, but it's a favorite for a lot of people out there. It is a very good movie. It's a very good movie. You will not regret watching it. It's not like, one of my favorite movies is Spaceballs. Trust me, over the years, I've told people, oh, you got to watch Spaceballs if you've never watched it before. And I've actually had some people say to me, what the fuck did I just watch? What did you tell me why did I watch this? Spaceballs, the lunchbox. Spaceballs, the toilet paper. It was just combed to death. And trust me, some people the combing the desert segment on my hotline, few people were a little angry at that. We ain't found shit. We ain't found shit. Yeah, watch it. Mighty's asking my favorite Super Bowl of all time. I have the whole 86 Giants season. 86 was an immense year for me because I'm a Mets fan and a Giants fan. The Mets won the World Series. The Giants won the Super Bowl. How could you go any better? And, but I got to tell you, when Scott Norwood missed the field goal, the Buffalo Bills, when they played the Giants, I think Jeff Hostetler filled in as the quarterback for that Super Bowl. I was over at my friend's house, and I remember we watched the Buffalo Bills footage of the game, and you heard the commentator go, oh, no. It just, for some reason, we popped. So that might be my favorite Super Bowl of all time. So Fly, happy 29 months. being a made man of the family. Made man. Awesome. Gruss is asking, have I ever seen an animated movie, Sausage Party? No, I have not. I will Google it and see what it's about. Maybe I'll check it out. Sausage Party, for some reason, it feels like a mid-2010s Ring of Honor show. Sausage. What was the Fed that we used to say it was a sausage party? Oh, no, I know what it was. My brain gets a little scrambled at times. The Jericho Cruise. When people I'll never forget, when the Jericho Cruise had their first cruise, they were showing pictures of all these guys with tickets, and there were some women who were going on the cruise as well. And I remember a lot of people on the net were like, wow, I feel bad for all the girls going. This is going to be a sausage fest or a sausage party. And I don't remember who it was. It wasn't a podcaster, but it was somebody who wrote, it might be for Wrestling Inc. I don't remember what his name, but I remember he thought he wrote like the funniest sarcastic thing. And some girl went back to him and said, what if I'm gay? Like, or she said, like, what does it matter to me? What if I don't like guys? Like, they were trying to basically say, like, I feel bad for all the women. They're going to be surrounded by nothing but sausage. I do remember that. All right. Vincent Ricci. Do I think the Hardys should retire? I forgot to write this in my synopsis yesterday, but I will write it here tonight. As much as I praise Tony Khan for announcing 3 shows they're going to give the proceeds to help victims from the Maui disaster, there's a big difference between donating profits and donating proceeds. When you donate profits, that means if it costs $10 for the show and you sell a ticket for $15, you keep your 10, so you're even, and you give the $5 to charity. If I sell a shirt for $10 and it costs $8 to make, I'm donating $2 to charity. So when people say they donate the profits, a lot of times they're not donating all that much. But hey, anything's better than none. But he's donating the proceeds, any money that comes in. Now, they're obviously doing that strategically, tax write-off. But as much as I praised him for that, how the fuck do you put Jeff Hardy in a death match Wednesday? I mean, it's like 1 year. It's only been 1 year since he was arrested. And the guy has had so many problems. And one of the reasons why Jeff Hardy kept relapsing over the years is because of, to quote Mr. T, pain. That's one of the reasons, the biggest reason why Jeff Hardy kept numbing himself. Pain. And you put him in a death match. I know what some people are going to say, well, DT, death match could just be like a Singapore cane, or maybe he's using a cookie sheet. And the cookie sheet doesn't hurt. It sounds nice, but it doesn't hurt. DT, a death match doesn't have to hurt. You could do a lot of visuals. You mean to tell me Jeff Hardy's not going to climb a fucking ladder Wednesday? You mean to tell me Jeff Hardy's not going to dive off or something? If I see a death match Wednesday and Jeff doesn't do any crazy dives, I'll be fine with it. But why put him in that position? I don't understand that. And honestly, guys, I'm a little ticked off at a lot of the bigger media outlets out there who gush over AEW that are very fucking quiet about this. Why didn't they immediately say, AEW, what are you doing? I don't care if Jeff Hardy said, guys, I want to do a death match. I'm not showing up anymore if you don't give me the death match. I don't care what the reason. Why did they all keep silent? Why are they all silent right now? I'm not trying to be a party pooper for Jeff Hardy, but what's going on with him, and they announce a death match. Fucking stupid. That's my honest opinion on it. So I don't think the Hardys should retire, but you got to be a little bit more careful, man. They got to be a little bit more careful with this shit. They definitely could still go. Listen, if I had an indie promotion and I could bring them in and have even a Gaga match everybody that goes to the show goes home happy. So the Hardys still have value. But, man, just the way they use them sometimes is just a little confusing. All right. MJ is asking, have I ever seen any of Sammy the Bull Gravano's podcast? And if I have, my thoughts on his stories. I've seen some of them. I live in Howard Beach, 3 blocks away from where John Gotti used to live. Members of his family went to my wedding in 1999. And I'm just saying to set it up like this. Most people in my neighborhood think that Sammy the Bull is a liar and a rat and will do anything to put money in his pocket. I've seen his podcast, and I do believe that a lot of what he says is true. But, because most of the parties involved, with all due respect, were whacked, like, they ain't going to come back and contest it. It's like Hulk Hogan. Every time somebody dies, oh, brother, I just talked to him last week, brother. We were going to go mountain climbing, brother. He just told me he loved. The only time I think Hulk was legit honest was when Roddy Piper died. Because Roddy Piper did call Hulk and leave him a beautiful message days before he passed. And Hulk still has that message to this day. But, like when someone's dead, you could say anything you want. I mean, what are you going to do? This isn't like the movies where suddenly you're going to hear thunder in the background and your lights are going to flicker and you'll be like, oh, shit. But then again, the night with Daffney, how crazy was that? That, to this day, like people have told me, DT, you got to put that clip by itself on YouTube. You got to, for those that don't know, and this is a little too personal, I was very, very good friends with Daffney. I don't need to prove it. You all have seen the proof, know it. I was very, very close with Daffney. Still have things on my desk, that just put a smile on my face. But when the night that she passed, I was doing a show. Everybody was trying to get a hold of her. And it really upset me because I had 2 phone numbers for her. One of them was good, but it kept going to voicemail. And I passed along her Georgia address. I passed along phone numbers to journalists. And to this day, none of those journalists ever said to me, thank you for sending it over, or for trying or whatever. I don't need a thank you. But, they were the ones online are like, if anybody has any contact information, please send it over. And I sent it over and nothing. So, to this day, I wonder if some people online were just making it seem like they cared, but, went through the motions. But for those that, and it's online if you want to see, while we were doing the show, it's never happened before it. It never happened after it. And trust me, I'm no special effects expert to even make that happen. While we were doing the show, I don't remember what time it was, but all of a sudden, sound tiles that were glued to my ceiling, 2 of them came down, and I think one knocked the light out. And we were like, what the fuck was that? And you saw it on the video, and you find out that the time that this happened, it's the exact same time. You look at the report that came out publicly, go back and look at the timestamp of the show, because I always have this thing in the background with the time. Look at the time. To this day, it is next to my grandmother, thinking that I saw my grandmother at my parents' house one time. That has got to be the biggest paranormal thing that I've ever seen in my life. And some of you here were live at that episode. And when it fell, I just didn't think anything of it. I mean, we all had her on our thoughts that night and hoping that, somebody gets through to her. But that's just bizarre. Okay. Maggie's asking me, what do I think about Michael Franchese He's watched some of his believe it or not, out of all the gangsters doing a podcast, the former gangsters, I like Michael's the most. Michael, he definitely, like he got out of it more for his family than anything else. But Michael Franchese, I believe his stories a lot more than I believe Sammy the Bull. But Michael Franchese is entertaining. He's a character too. So if any of you out there, if you like former mobsters, like telling stories, Michael Franchese is a good one. More professional one. Yeah, Josh says that Daffney and Francine made his night after a convention. I've always told this story. I went to the Chiller convention in 2002. And after the show, I was hanging out with Daffney, Francine, Crowbar, and a few others. And at that time, few of us were going to go to Atlantic City to gamble. Francine wanted to go to Atlantic City to gamble. And I remember this guy Slash, like, go to Atlantic City, go gamble, hang out. And I was like, nah, I got to work the next day. But everybody was so mad cool. But if any of you out there ever talk to Francine, I'll tell you a really cool story. And I know some of you know this story already. Back in 2002, I was still doing my wrestling hotline. And she had a website, and she was selling like some of her in-ring outfits and stuff. And it was this guy, Charlie, that was an uber extreme fan of hers. And he was this innocent guy, no crazy, but just was a tremendous fan of hers. And he would always buy all of her shit. And I went on my hotline once and I addressed him and I said something just in passing, like he was like a little strange. And she called me up. She's like, could you please delete that? He's not a bad guy. And I deleted it. But check this out. They were doing the Chiller convention. I have photos somewhere. You ever seen the infamous photo of me with my chest and it looks like I have a Brillo pad glued to it? Me and Daphne, that's that day. Francine was giving away, she was doing a raffle that she was giving away an in-ring outfit that she wore for an ECW pay-per-view. And while we were at the Chiller convention, I was telling her about this girl that was a listener on my hotline that was an extreme fan of hers. And I bought like 40 raffles. And she's like, why are you buying so many raffles? I said, because there's this girl that's a huge fan of yours, and if I win it, I want to give it to her. She's like, wait a second. She goes in a bag, and she pulls out this leather outfit, and I still got the photo somewhere, and she's like, give it to your caller. And I was like, you shitting me? She's like, no. She's like, but I want to see a picture of her holding it so she knows that I actually gave it to the girl. And I gave it to the girl, and she was in tears, crying, took pictures of it. I'm not going to lie, it looked kind of weird to see this girl who was battling bone cancer, and she's holding up this skimpy leather outfit. Like it was like I took the picture and it was cute, but if you didn't know the story behind the picture, you would have been like, okay, this is a weird picture. But yeah, that's how generous Francine was. She could have easily gotten $5 for that outfit. She just gave it to me, and she said, give it to the girl. If any of you out there are a fan of Francine's or talk to her still, play this moment an hour into the show. Didn't exaggerate at all. She is, I haven't talked to her in ages. She was tremendously cool. Very, very cool woman. And she was very, very close with Daphne. Very close. So, yeah. My favorite WCW memory? You're asking me to go from the 80s to 2001 and give my favorite memory? Well, it's not as hard as you think, because my favorite Raw moment is Jericho debuting. Welcome to Raw is Jericho, and he had the confrontation with The Rock. Probably when Hogan joined the NWO. When they created the NWO, because it was so controversial and unexpected. And what led to it was tremendous. I became a religious watcher of WCW after that. There's other moments that were really, really cool. But that moment is up there. So what do I think of Rey Mysterio beating Austin Theory? I talked about it yesterday on the Don Tony show. I don't have anything against Rey Mysterio winning it. I know it immediately caused concern for a lot of people out there thinking that Dominic Mysterio and Rey Mysterio may unify their championships, which I don't want to see happening. The only thing I don't like about Rey winning it is that it's going to delay LA Knight becoming United States champion. Because LA Knight, they're pushing him more to be a babyface, and I don't see WWE putting LA Knight in a position where he defeats Rey Mysterio to win that championship. So right now, I think it's going to lead to Santos Escobar and Austin Theory getting a shot at the title. Maybe we get a three-way at Payback. We might get a three-way at Payback. Maybe we get a one-on-one at Payback. But to me, at the end of the day, this delays LA Knight becoming a champion. So that's the only thing I don't like about it. It's the only thing I don't like about it. So, okay. Got a couple of super shout-outs. If you don't mind. Rizzo with a 10 spot. Thank you, Rizzo. He drives for a living, and his brother's birthday, who passed away in 2010, he was at a red light, and when the red light turned green, for some reason, his car didn't move when he hit the gas. Wow. Wow. And he continues. And a split second later, some wagon runs a red light going at least 60 miles an hour in the exact same lane and freaked the heck out of him. To this day, he can't explain it. Yeah, listen, I've heard people say that their light flickered or something. Listen, the shit that happened that night, explain it to me. Explain how that happens to the minute of that. It's just bizarre. I'll say this, and this might affect some of you out there. I've had people tell me, people I know personally, tell me that when a family member of theirs passed away, that they actually felt something. Like they actually felt something. I know someone personally whose brother passed away, and he said to me that night he had this really weird feeling, and then in the middle of the night got a phone call that his brother had a heart attack. So, you know, I can't explain it, but it could very well be that. I mean, you know, it could be you just had a fucked up, you know, maybe a clogged carburetor. But no, I believe that, man. I believe that. You can't explain it. You can't explain it, but there are people out there that do say these things. And especially when you see some live podcasts, you know, after the fact, anybody could say anything, but when it's a live podcast and you hear somebody saying something, and then the next day something happens, you know, it's weird. You know, the one that always hit me when I was 15 years old, I've told this story before. We used to hang out with this girl, and she was having dreams of her mother trying to grab her. Her mother passed away when she was very young. She didn't know her mother. She saw pictures of her, but she was having dreams of her mother trying to grab her. She didn't know why. And we were in TSS. That was a shopping store in Middle Village way back when. Now it's I think the Atlas Mall. And we were in the cafeteria. I'll never forget it. We were sitting in the cafeteria eating pizza and soda in an afternoon, and she was 15 years old also. She put her head down. She had a brain aneurysm. She died. And I remember we were running through the store, call for help. And this is, you know, the 80s, mid-80s. Nobody had cell phones. I don't even think I had a beeper yet. And she was having dreams of her mother trying to grab her, and 15 years old, brain aneurysm, and died. Crazy shit, man. Crazy. But, yeah, Rizzo, I think there's probably your brother, you know, giving you a sign like, you know, it's interesting, you know. That's kind of leaves me speechless. Jerry Ramey. What's up, Jerry? Boss, what's your favorite Nikita Koloff memory? I think Koloff should have beaten Flair at Starrcade 86, then dropped the belt at Bash 87. I was never a huge fan of Nikita Koloff. And the reason being was when I started watching Nikita Koloff, this is when they had Ivan Koloff with him. Didn't they have Demolition Smash, Crusher Khrushchev? Was he with them as well? I think he might have been with them also. But Nikita Koloff, man, once his career was over and I started watching old school 80s, it's almost like the same. I felt the same way about Magnum TA. Like if Magnum TA never had that motorcycle accident, it's like, I don't know if any of you out there grew up like a teenager in the 80s. He's still alive and he does these commercials for reverse financing your home, Tom Selleck. Magnum TA had that Tom Selleck look. Scott Hall, I always thought Scott Hall was trying to be a little bit Magnum TA-ish in his look as well. But I put Magnum TA and Nikita Koloff in the same bin. Nikita Koloff was excellent, man. The problem is, when Chaos asked earlier about who made the most, impact when they won the WWF championship, and he said Ivan Koloff. I think if Nikita Koloff would have won that championship, I think it would have given us maybe even less of a vibe than when Vader won it. I loved when Vader became WCW champion. It was a hard sell for me when Ric Flair beat Vader to get the belt back. But Vader had that presence that you were scared shit to get in the face of Vader. Nikita Koloff, though, if Nikita Koloff, if this would have been 5 years earlier, maybe I would have felt differently. The problem is, 79, you had Iran and the hostages, and then you had controversy with Russia, but then you had Reagan, and what was his name? Nikolai Gorbachev. And then you had the Berlin Wall. My point is that if Nikita Koloff, this would have been 5 to 10 years earlier, I think he would have been a massive heel. And I think he could have definitely had a bigger presence. It just, if he would have won the championship, I probably would have felt the same way like when Ronnie Garvin won it or when someone else won it. Even when Tommy Rich became heavyweight champion, they were trying to capitalize on him, for the girls and, he's so young and the look, but is it going to make a tremendous, I don't know. I just never thought, I always thought Nikita Koloff, if anything, 10 years earlier, probably would have been a little bit different, but tremendous athlete. Holy shit. Out of the 3 Russian characters that we just brought up, he was the best physical specimen. But in defense, Ivan Koloff was way past his prime. Ivan Koloff, by that time, he was pretty much done. You want to know something? I went to a Ridgewood Grove Arena once. Ivan Koloff was wrestling. Anybody remember the chain that he used to have? And sometimes when he would throw the chain in the ring, the end of the chain would bounce off the canvas. I swear I will never do another show again. I guarantee you, Brian Last probably be one that would have witnessed this. Not too many people on the Northeast, I think, was around watching, Grove Arena shows at that time, or even in other gyms. But I'll never forget one time we were sitting front row, and Ivan Koloff came out for his match, and he was throwing the chain in the ring. And every time he would throw it, it would bounce up. And one time it bounced up and almost hit him right smack in the face. It bounced backwards. I mean, it didn't hit him, but it came close, man. I mean, he bounced that shit, and it literally came within maybe 6 inches of pecking him right in the face. He would have had a broken nose. He would have been probably one of the most embarrassing things. But we didn't have video at the time. We had 110 cameras. So we wouldn't have gotten really good footage of it. We're on a little retro kick, I see. Bobby Means. What's up, Bobby? Welcome to the family again. What do I think about the Ric Flair-Terry Funk rivalry? One of my favorites of all time. Terry Funk is my favorite wrestler of all time. Not even close. He's been my number one guy since he beat the fuck out of Mel Phillips. And trust me, at that time, you heard things about Mel Phillips, but not to the level of what we found out later on. But when he beat the fuck out of Mel Phillips, I thought he was badass. And then I watched that Stallone movie. And then I got to meet him in the 80s and was just in awe. Then the 90s came around and I got to meet him a few times. Low Life Louie wrestled him. We drove to Connecticut. He wrestled him. I've showed it on the shows. He sent me a 2-page letter when I got engaged in 1996. Branding iron. I'm on a shoot interview. I almost got arrested for road rage the day of his shoot interview. I actually went to Philly and had lunch with him and Mick Foley. Terry Funk is my favorite. And his rivalry with Ric Flair was tremendous. When he pile drove Ric Flair on the table, you didn't see things like that much ever in 89. That time. You saw it later on with ECW more. I mean, I'm not saying ECW revolutionized it, but Terry Funk was just, when they said middle-aged and crazy, man, he was middle-aged and crazy. And it breaks my heart to see him frail like this. He's going to be one of the few when it's his time to go that you best damn believe Don Tony will be crying his eyes out. And I'm not trying to be a dick talking in the third person, but I will cry my ass off. So, thank you for that. Thank you for that. All right. Jerry Ramey with another 10 spot. Thank you, Jerry. Vader was one of the most legit ass kickers he's ever seen. To be a jobber and powerbombed on your head, 400-pound beast flying. Listen, the problem with most fans of today that were around during the Attitude Era is their earliest everyday experience of Vader is when he was in the WWF. Yes, people have watched it on the network after, and people went back and watched older, but when Vader was in Japan and he would put, his chest, the mask and the vest, put it down, and they have the special effects with the smoke coming through it. And then you see this 400-pound massive guy, and he's just punching people. And if you remember how Vader used to punch, he'd go like this and like this. And you're like, I'm right-handed. So if I threw a punch, I could throw it beautiful with my right hand. My left hand, not nowhere near. Vader, he would connect, and didn't matter if he punched with right or punched with left. Everything looked like it hurt. And I got to meet Vader a few times. Mass Maniac booked Vader. I remember when Vader canceled because he was ill. And I remember we were on a 3-way, and you could all ask the Mass Maniac. He's still around. And Vader was on the phone like almost crying. Like he felt awful. He's like, man, Frank, I'm so sorry. He's like, please, I'll work your next show for half price. He's like, I'm not making it. Like he felt so guilty about it. And he didn't have to. But he was, as crazy as Vader was in the ring, he was the opposite outside the ring. Like any time you heard about Vader on the outside, genuine man. When you saw Beyond the Mat, if you ever saw Beyond the Mat and they show Vader in the back and he's like getting like soft-spoken, I think he worked in real estate at some point, but Vader was badass, man. Honestly, Vader was a badass motherfucker. I know as years go by, like Bam Bam is getting more love. And I know that might not be the best word, or more exposure, but, Bam Bam was badass too, but Vader scared the shit out of me. Vader was serious. Vader's badass. Seriously. And the guy could move. Kevin Milwaukee, as a talent, and me being me, I'm not talent, but okay, would I have taken that bite from Jake's King Cobra the way Macho Man did in late 1991? If I knew that it wasn't poisonous, if I was getting paid a crazy amount of money, I would think about it. But to be honest with you, I mean, I've gone camping over the years, and we would come across snakes, and we knew that they were more like garden snakes. Like they're not poisonous. Don't worry about it. And I would still fucking run. I would run the other way. So I wouldn't. I mean, if you're going to pay me like 10 G's and I know it's going to pinch, like you're going to feel a little pinch, and it's not venomous, like, hey, I don't care. It's like, okay, I got a little bite. It's a big deal. You play with your dog and the dog bites your hand, doesn't really like push down on it, but no, I probably wouldn't. The thing is, like with snakes, I wouldn't take the chance, man. I would. The more I think about it, you couldn't pay me enough to get bit by a snake. Nah. With my luck, I'd get sick from it. Gruss is asking if Herb Abrams didn't pass away, would the UWF have been a major player in the 90s? No. No. You got to understand this. I mean, everybody knows Herb Abrams now because of his drug abuse, and people try to compare Tony Khan to Herb Abrams. But Herb Abrams, the wrestlers, let me put it this way. At the time UWF was around, and wrestlers that later on worked Northeast, and we talked to a few, even with the Mass Maniac, about UWF, the impression I always got was that the wrestlers were using him. Like they were using him. Like they were just trying to milk him for whatever they could get. And when it goes dry, that's it. I felt the same way with Andrew McManus. Anybody remember Andrew McManus? That guy, I think in Australia, that he was trying to become like the next wrestling promoter in the early 2000s, I think it was. Then you had that other Fed, Ted DiBiase, was involved in. Anybody remember the Fed that was around like in the early 2000s also? I remember here in New York, it was Channel 5 in the wee hours in the morning. And whoever ran it, there was like this big cocaine jar on the desk. And everybody was trying to milk him for money. Wasn't Sable part of it? Ted DiBiase, Jimmy Hart. Oh, they were building some guy. They were trying to make him the next Goldberg. I can't remember his name. He kind of looked like Chaos, but he was like, they tried to turn him into the next Goldberg. He was in WCW for a long time too. It was not Nathan Jones. Somebody else. He was in WCW too. Not Max. I remember the bodybuilder Max that was in WCW. It was another guy, but Ted DiBiase's promotion, man, they were just milking this guy for whatever they could get from him. And before you knew it, that company was done. Wrestlicious, it was different. Wrestlicious, the guy just wanted to live out his fantasy to be like not only a promoter, but also to be the pimp. If you remember my hotline and my early podcast, we were shitting on Wrestlicious every week. And the people behind Wrestlicious would be like, we're not closing. We're not doing this. Stop posting this fake stuff. And like, no, I have talked to people that work for you and they're milking you dry. And, no, that's not true. It is. And Jimmy Hart, God bless Jimmy Hart. Jimmy Hart earned more than you can imagine off of Wrestlicious, man. WXO. Thank you, Mighty Mighty. Yes, is the WXO. No, it was the XWF. You're right. Gruss is right. It is the XWF. That was the name of it. I can't remember the name of the guy they were trying to make as the next Goldberg, but someone out there will remember. He was bald. He had a goatee, and he looked like a cross between Goldberg and Guardian of Chaos. And he was in WCW for a while, and I can't remember his name. It's definitely not Nathan Jones. It was not a guy that went to the WWF afterwards, but I'm almost tempted to Google it, but we're running out of time. And by the you know what? I hate doing this on a live show because it's unprofessional, but we have to get this answer, and I will get you the answer. All right. I'm looking at it right now. Why is it not on this list? It's not. I know it was Emery Hale. Wasn't it Emery Hale? I think it was Emery Hale. They were calling him Big Hale. That's who it was. Emery Hale. Emery Hale. He died. Oh, wow. He died. Whoa. No way. He died January 29th, 2006 at the age of 36. Oh, shit. So he was only like 30 years old with the XWF. By the way, for those that are curious, the roster, like the top roster of the XWF at the time, Brian Knobbs, Buff Bagwell, Dawn Marie, the British Storm, Greg the Hammer Valentine, Jerry Saggs, Jimmy Hart. Jimmy Hart's name always pops up. Johnny B. Bad, Josh Matthews, Conan, Kid Cash, Conan, Norman Smiley, Rey Mysterio Jr., Simon Diamond. Shout out to everybody who knows why I did that. Conan! I got to make that my ringtone. Seriously. Whenever anybody that annoys me that I don't like, that's going to be my custom ringtone. I swear to God, by next week, I'm going to do it on the show. I'm going to set that as my ringtone, and I will put it live on the show. So whenever somebody annoys me, it'll ring. It'll go, Conan! I almost said Thea Hale. Emery Hale. Vampiro, The Wall, Jerry Tootie, Terry Funk, Simon Diamond, Norman Smiley. Rey Mysterio Jr. was on there? No. Oh, yeah, he was. He was. Ray was on there twice. Jerry Tootie, The Wall. You remember him. He was also an Impact for a little while with Sinister Ministers group. I started talking to him when he was in XPW, and he was Snuff. He died very, very young, and it was an overdose. Jerry Tootie was a really, really quiet guy, man. I remember coming to the shows, and every time he was there, he would be sitting in a corner, listening to his iPod. After the show was over and everybody was hanging out, like either in the lobby of the hotel or going into the rooms, he'd always be sitting in a corner, listening to his iPod, just being to himself, very, very cordial. And you'd see this guy playing Snuff. I mean, if anybody remembers his character in XPW, like his outside, I mean, you've always felt like, wow, he's like awfully quiet. But he was a very, very nice guy, Jerry Tootie. XXX, XXX with a 2-spot. And basically with a statement, Harley Race is the top 3 greatest wrestlers of all time. I'll agree with you in this way. Obviously, the wrestlers who were around in the 40s, the 50s, the 60s, we never saw them wrestle. You only heard about them. You hear about the Killer Kowalskis and others, they're way before our time. As far as our lifetime, which would be, for me, 70s to today, Harley Race definitely is in the top 5. I mean, and the reason why I put him up there is he may not have been the greatest technical wrestler, but he had everything. He had the tools, the mic skills, the wrestling. He was beautiful with offense. He was tremendous on defense. He made the other person look like $1 million when he sold. Psychology, creativity, selling out buildings. Fans wanted to see Harley Race get his ass kicked. You know, you could give a wrestler 5 stars, but there's a lot of people in off-Broadway that you would say are better actors and actresses than the people on Broadway. But if the people in off-Broadway can only draw a couple of hundred people, and I'm not insinuating that anybody with 5-star matches only draw a couple hundred people, but, you know, there's one thing having all the tools, but getting people to want to see you get your ass kicked is another. I would put Harley Race in top 5 for my lifetime. I mean, Harley Race is a little before my time, but, you know, as years went by, see, you got to understand something. This is why I don't like comparing wrestlers from the 70s and the 80s to today. You look at somebody like Kurt Angle, or you look at somebody today like Bryan Danielson. If Bryan Danielson or Kurt Angle were wrestling in the 70s, you would see a lot of headlocks. You would see a lot of what would be considered today boring, because at that time, that's what the style was. You know, you had your Mil Mascaras, but if anybody ever watched the Mil Mascaras match from the 70s and 80s, you'd be a little ooh and ah, but you would be like, it's okay. So a lot of wrestlers today, their offense has got to like dazzle everyone, because we were all spoiled for decades of seeing crazy shit, over the top stuff. You do a 450, I got to do a 630. You do a 630, I got to do a 960. I got to do this. You do this, you know, I got to do that. You do a swanton, I got to flip around twice. So the wrestlers of today, because people are so over the top, you know, to try to please someone, they have to have this crazy arsenal. So that's why I don't like comparing like a Kurt Angle to a Harley Race, because Kurt Angle wouldn't have done half of the moves, or Bryan Danielson wouldn't have done a third of the moves that he does today if he was around in the 70s. And if that was the case, you would have had other wrestlers in the 70s. Dynamite Kid, you know, others, they showed signs of what we would get today, and they inspired wrestlers of today, but they didn't put on the performances we see today. There was not enough wrestlers to do that. So, all right, we're going to wrap this up in about 5 minutes, because we got a little busy day tomorrow. Raw will be on, and we have Becky Lynch taking on Trish. I don't know if I'm going to keep this as the thumbnail. You know, instead of thank you, Trish, I wanted to put spank you, Trish. Everybody seemed to like yesterday, you know, the Oos drops a deuce thumbnail. So tomorrow we get Becky Lynch and Trish Stratus. They'll be going at it. Trish will lose, and this will pretty much begin the end of Zoe Stark and Trish Stratus's relationship, because Trish Stratus will be going back to private life in the very near future. You know, I know Trish Stratus, it was a hard sell early on with her turning heel and some of the mic work and some of this, and, you know, but you know what? At the end of the day, if you would have said to me, DT, you could go back 6 months, Trish doesn't return, or you could keep what she had done, I would keep what she had done. I would keep what she had done. It wasn't the greatest stuff, but you know what? I appreciate the fact that she came back and put a lot of work into it. You know, you could feel that she put a lot of work into it. May not have, you know, come across as good stuff all the time, but me, I would, you know. And look, if you can't stand Trish Stratus or Becky, at least you know this is the end of it. This is the end. As far as what they're doing, this is pretty much the beginning of the end. So, you know, I was looking at some of my thumbnails from earlier this year. I don't know why, but this one kind of like put a smile on my face. I actually laughed at this one earlier. I kind of feel bad that Naomi never got the starter money, but you know, she's doing good at Impact. I think Naomi is back in WWE before WrestleMania next year. Absolutely. Sasha Banks, I don't know. You know, she's still recovering from the injury, so we'll have to wait on that. But Rizzo says, so Lita will never get retribution on Trish for the attack on her. Maybe we get Lita tomorrow. I almost feel like they got to close that chapter with Lita getting some type of revenge. But, you know, the thing is that Trish didn't necessarily, well, it was implied that she screwed Lita, and since Zoe Stark is banned from ringside tomorrow, Lita's not banned, so maybe Lita does show up. You almost feel like Lita's got to make at least one appearance before all of this. So maybe it's tomorrow. Michael's asking, favorite movie starring a wrestler? Oof. I would have to see a list of movies in front of me. Favorite movie starring a wrestler? Oof. I would have to get a list. I mean, I couldn't even think. I Ready to Rumble was kind of I wasn't, you know what? Yeah. Thank you, Steven. Thank you. You reminded me. I would have been pissed. I'm not even joking. I would have been legit pissed if I went off the air and I totally forgot about this guy. I still got the shirt. I'm too lazy to put it away yet. This is a real Roddy Piper shirt from 1984. That is a legit Piper shirt. They Live, starring Roddy Piper. They Live, and it's not even close. It is by far my favorite wrestler movie of all time. I have the DVD, I got the VHS, I got the Blu-ray, I got the extended version, I got memorabilia. They Live, and it's not even close. I would have really been pissed if we went off the air and I forgot about They Live. I actually have it in my Blu-ray player right now because I watched it about 3 months ago. I just never took it out of the player. So that I have very, very few wrestling collectibles still. And that one I have never parted with. I actually, not too long ago, I said, because I know MJF absolutely loves Roddy Piper. Like if MJF, wanted it, would I give it to him? I probably would. And probably give it to him for nothing. But for now, it's mine. Nobody touches it. So, but all right. Last question, and we're gonna get out of here. So tomorrow, Raw will be up right after it. Remember, I'm going on vacation, September 1st to September 9th. So what we plan on doing is that week, I'm going to ask Kev to come on for that Tuesday. Kev and I will do predictions for Payback. I will also be doing a Q&A that week, and I will record it on that Thursday. So we'll at least have, 1 or 2 shows. The history shows are on a schedule, so those will upload no matter what. But, we'll have a week, pretty much no shows. But I'll be back Saturday the 9th. So my return show should be Sunday, September 10th. So Machiavelli's asking me what happened to Mish. I have not talked to him since the day that he left the shows. And honestly, I hope he's doing well, but that is closed book. I do not talk to him. I do not access his shows. Don't know anything at all. So, and honestly, I don't want to know. It's best kept, this way. So, no hard feelings, but yeah, there's nothing. No idea. You're asking the wrong person. Carmelo's asking, in my opinion, who had a greater impact in wrestling, Roddy Piper or Randy Savage? In wrestling, maybe Randy Savage, because it's so difficult to answer that, because Roddy Piper was more of the crossover to Hollywood. I think Randy Savage obviously is a household name up to a certain period. Like almost everybody out there knows. And the funny thing is, I think a lot of people know Randy Savage from Step Into a Slim Jim. Oh yeah. Like they would know more from the Slim Jim commercials. That's why I kind of like that WWE inked the deal with Slim Jim, because we get to see a little cameo from Randy Savage, even though he's deceased now. Roddy Piper, I'll say it like this. Randy Savage was more of a household name. Roddy Piper was more, within wrestling. Like, he affected more of people within wrestling, but outside of wrestling, Randy Savage was a much more recognizable name. I mean, look, you put him in Spider-Man, that in itself gave him tremendous exposure outside of wrestling, but everybody knew Randy. I will say this. I remember when Randy Savage passed from his car accident. I remember when Roddy Piper passed. And I know mainstream media covered both deaths, but here in New York, the Newswire, I think they covered Randy Savage a little bit more. I think they did, because Randy Savage, I think, was just much more of a household name. Like, you thought of Hogan, you thought of Savage. Triple X ×2. My thoughts on Ox Baker and Mighty Igor. Mighty Igor, I never really put any attention to. Way past my prime. Ox Baker, though, Escape from New York. Escape from New York. When I saw Escape from New York in 1982 or 81, I don't remember if it was 81 or 82, and Ox Baker was in it, I remember him from the wrestling magazines. Never really saw him much on the Northeast, but I got to meet him at 2 wrestling conventions, maybe 3. I think it was 2, though. One of the nicest people you ever met. Like, he's this crazy guy. But I would watch his work from the 70s. Ox Baker is not a very good wrestler, but Ox Baker, because he was so big, like, he didn't have to, like, really be polished. The hard punch is what caused all the controversy. When he threw the hard punch, that's it. You listen, you have a move, when you are privileged to have a move that's supposed to fuck up somebody's heart, like, that's it. Punch him in the heart, match is over. You don't have to worry about somebody kicking out. Listen, it would have sucked if Ox Baker took on Hulk Hogan in the 80s and Ox Baker hit him with the hard punch, and then Hulk just gets up and goes like this. I would have been pissed. And I was a Hulkamaniac at that time too. Ox Baker was he was one who really made the most out of his wrestling career. And Escape from New York, I think, is the reason why he got so much more attention on the conventions. Because that just he wasn't just a 70s wrestler or 60s wrestler. This was a guy who also fought with Kurt Russell. Loved his work in Escape from New York. Tremendous. Not very good wrestler, though. But Ox Baker did enough that you were concerned. If you were a kid, he scared you. And he was intimidating, and you bought into his stuff. It's like Killer Khan. When I was a kid and Killer Khan was around, Killer Khan used to scare the shit out of me. Especially when he would scream. I'm not going to do it here because it'll be a headphone warning for everyone. I'd probably have to hear it first, but Killer Khan would fucking scream, and it wasn't a scream like somebody's yelping. It was a scream like if you like stepped on your cat's tail and didn't let go. Like, he would scream, and as I became older, I would laugh. I would watch like old school wrestling and see Killer Khan, and he'd scream and I'd start laughing. But when I was a kid, he used to scare me, man. He used to have that big chunk of hair in the back of his head. All right, let's get out of here. Let's start bringing us home. Theme parks with Johnny, sending in a 5 spot. Thank you very much, Johnny. Johnny's asking, have I checked out or know about Matt Cardona doing an Undertaker gimmick? Pretty good. I have not seen it yet. Matt Cardona, I have said it many times. He has transitioned his career and taken it to a level that I don't think anybody in their right mind ever thought he would, other than himself and maybe Chelsea Green. He doing the GCW stuff. That in itself, kind of took me by surprise, but he's having fun, man. He's trolling people. He's doing whatever he could to piss people off. And people listen, one thing Matt Cardona is doing as good as anybody else on the indies right now is people are paying money to see him get his ass kicked. And I give him props, man. I crapped on him when he was in WWE. Remember when he won the Intercontinental Championship at that WrestleMania? Wasn't that long ago. And I was like, I'm not even going to repeat what I said at the time, but, he blocked me and never been unblocked. That's okay. I'm sure I'm not like anything that he's aware of, but that guy, man, totally revolutionized his career. He went from woo, 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 to what he's doing now. Tremendous. Tremendous. Devin M says, I skipped him. I skipped what? I don't know what you're talking about. Wait. Oh, I did skip you. Oh, shit. I don't blame you for shout out to Devin M, man. Devin M was in a lot of our watch parties. Very, very active here. I think everybody out there, if you know Devin privately, or, if we bring back the watch party this week, which I'm not sure yet, if he's there, he got married in July. That is awesome, man. That's pretty cool. So I don't know how old you are, but, I'm a late bloomer. I got married last year, but he got married in July and he's catching up. So good reason to not be around like you were before, man. He's 28. Fuck you. I'm almost double your age, man. No, I'm not 55. I'm younger than that. But 28, that's a good year, man. Actually, you know what? I got married in 1999. So, yeah, just slightly older than you by a year or so. But we know how that turned out, so don't follow my footsteps. But it's cool, man. I like hearing that. Could you believe this? And listen, I just happen to have the picture on my screen, but can you believe it's already in like 3 weeks? It's 1 year that I got married already. 1 fucking year. I mean, I have this picture in my computer still. That is us 12 years ago. 11 years ago on the left. And that is us last year. I can't believe how fast the year. You know what's going to happen? Devin M is going to send me a $4.99 in the near future. And he's going to be like, DT, I don't know if, you skipped over me, but it's my 1 year anniversary. This year, I can't understand how fast it went. I mean, I know as you get older, the years fly by, but it's just blowing my mind away that a year ago at this time, I'm at my parents' house making gift bags for my wedding. It's been 11 and a half months. It's crazy. It's fucking crazy. So, but very cool, Devin. Congrats, man. Yes, send me photos. Definitely love to see them. Very, very cool. Very cool. That is awesome. And I am going to check out Matt Cardona's Undertaker gimmick. Now I'm a little curious because how does Zack Ryder, I mean, I could see him doing the hardcore stuff and him trolling people, but doing Undertaker, I just hope when I watch it, he's not embarrassing the Undertaker. Listen, I think we'll leave with this. I think we could all agree that if the Undertaker debuted in 2023, he would probably not survive his character, especially with the internet and social media and, how everybody knows what wrestling is, and they would just rip apart. I mean, Undertaker's in-ring repertoire in 1991 is much different than what it would be in 2023. But I will say this, if Matt Cardona is doing an Undertaker gimmick, like, you have to do it in good taste. And if you're doing it to get your ass kicked, then you almost have to troll. So I'm a little concerned of what I'm going to see. Like, if he does it and it's cool, that's not his job. His job wants to piss people off. Why would you do the Undertaker? Like, of all the characters you could do, why would you do the one that would not even work in 2023? Like, I don't know, man. I got to see this. Now I'm a little curious about this. Now I'm a little curious. I just hope he doesn't embarrass Undertaker. You know, I would just leave it alone. Like, if he was a babyface doing it and playing a little tribute, okay. But if he's a heel, he's got to embarrass the Undertaker. He's got to mock him. He's got to make him look stupid. And you start doing that to a Hall of Famer, you know, you'll piss off the fans, but you might piss off some of the legends as well. So, guys, this was a great episode. I mean, they're all good, but a lot of fun, especially going back in time a little bit today. You know, trust me, it's not very easy in 2023 when you're consumed with WWE and AEW and NXT and a little bit of others as well. And then to just start flashing back to the days of Piper and Nikita Koloff and Ox Baker and Harley Race and Terry Funk and Ric Flair. You know, it's, and I will say this, and this is not kissing ass, it's pretty fucking cool in 2023 to see enough of you out there that still dig a little bit of the old school, that still dig some of the old timers. You know, it's nowhere near what it used to be, obviously, because there's so many wrestling fans today that may not have even seen a Ric Flair. Well, Ric Flair maybe because of last year, but they may never seen even Roddy Piper wrestle or some others, you know, in real time. I mean, you always got the WWE Network, but, you know, it's different when you live through storylines and you live through feuds. Let me tell you something. When Terry Funk and Ric Flair had that feud, I mean, especially living on the Northeast, we were angry because we got to see WCW on Saturday night, but there was a lot that we could not see in New York, or we would get on a delay, or you had to depend on sometimes with hotlines and magazines, like it wasn't your regional show. So there was a lot of little things about it that you would hear through the grapevine, or, you know, so that was hot, man. That was hot. So, guys, I'm out of here. I hope you enjoyed the show. If you enjoyed it, take a moment, smash that thumbs up. If you have any follow-up comments, questions, you're more than happy to post it in the chat. You got a memory you want to share with everybody, post it. If you know anyone else out there that would like the channel, let them know about it. Most important, DonTony.com. You know, tomorrow the rankings come out for all the shows. And again, you know, all the video stuff, and, you know, the videos are showing more than just YouTube. You know, those numbers do not come into play with the audio side of things. So if you really want to support the shows to another level, DonTony.com, download the audio versions, because that factors into our stats. And no, I don't want any inflated numbers. It shouldn't be. But, you know, doing the video side of things do take a hit. So that really helps us, you know, keep relevant and get exposure, you know, so definitely keep doing that. Much love, everybody. I'm out of here. If you are around tomorrow night after Raw, tomorrow will be mostly Raw. Then we'll get a recap. We'll cover ratings for the week, and we'll get into a little teaser for a history show this week. But I am Don Tony. I wish you all a good day, good evening, and I'll talk to you all soon.
As far back as I can remember, I always wanted to be a podcaster. For me to live any other way was nuts. To me, those goody-good people who worked shitty jobs for bum paychecks and took the subway to work every day and worried about their bills were dead. I mean, they were suckers. They had no balls. If I wanted something, I just took it. I ran everything. I paid the bills. I paid the host. I even paid the masked maniac. Everybody had their hands out. Everything was for the taking. We always called each other good fellas. You would always hear from somebody. You're gonna like Don Tony. He's all right. He's a good fella. He's one of us. But if you're part of my crew, nobody ever tells you they're gonna get rid of you. It doesn't happen that way. There weren't any arguments or curses like in the movies. See, your haters come with smiles. They come as your friends, the people who've claimed they care the most for your life. And now that's all over. And that's the best part. Today everything is different. There's lots of action. I don't have to wait around for everything like everyone else. Oh, I didn't get the vaccine? Fuck you, vaccine me. Oh, your delivery guy has COVID? Fuck you, feed me. Right after I moved here, I ordered egg noodles and ketchup, and I got spaghetti with meat sauce. I'm no longer an average nobody, while they get to live the rest of their lives like a bunch of schnooks.